People often talk about congestion and traffic on highways. Usually, we think of this as congested travel lanes. However, oftentimes, the number of travel lanes and overall capacity itself is not the main cause of the congestion. Many times, underbuilt exit and entrance ramps at interchanges cause spillover into through travel lanes and reduce traffic flow on the entire roadway. So the American Transportation Research Institute, or ATRI, has released its list of the top 100 most congested bottlenecks for trucks in America. Yes, this video is for my truckers and where you guys can expect to see the worst traffic bottlenecks and slowdown when delivering those vital goods and supplies that America needs to keep moving. Now, I won't be going over all 100 locations on this list. I'll just be doing the top 10, and I'll link the full list in the description if you're interested in seeing the rest. I'll also be taking a look at the DOTs in these areas to see what, if any, relief is on the way to those bottleneck interchanges. Hit that like button, subscribe if you love it, because there are a lot more videos like this coming, and let's talk about some interchanges. At number 10 on the list is the interchange between I-10 and I-15 in San Bernardino County, California. Sitting at the crossroads of a major industrial corridor and the meeting of two major interstates, this one should be of no surprise. Interstate 15 travels from the Canadian border in Idaho and connects to the southern border in San Diego via I-5, while I-10 is the major east-west highway across the southern U.S. When these two cross paths, there is bound to be fireworks. They cross at this stack interchange, and it looks like the exit ramps have a capacity of 2 lanes for the busiest directions of movement. The lanes enter and exit directly from the through travel lanes, with additional interchanges pretty close to this one in all 4 directions. That probably adds to the congestion and creates some weaving issues. It's been a long time since I've driven through this area, but just observing from above, I'd say it probably could benefit from auxiliary lanes through the entire area. However, let's take a look and see if Caltrans has anything cooking up for this one. San Bernardino County is in District 8, and for this interchange, there appears to be some good news. There's a project underway to construct express lanes in place of the current HOV lanes along I-10 through this interchange. And there it is, auxiliary lanes. There will be 3 eastbound auxiliary lanes and 1 westbound auxiliary lane. This is excellent, as the movement from I-10 eastbound onto I-15 northbound is the busiest movement. Caltrans specifically references the ATRI report as part of the reasoning behind this project. Awesome. Looks like there is some relief on the way for this busy interchange, and once completed, it should fall down the list several spots. Number 9 on the list is in a fast-growing city that I enjoyed quite a bit while I was there, Nashville, Tennessee. The interchange here is on the southeastern side of town, and it is the interchange between I-24, I-40, and I-440. If you're not familiar with the layout of Nashville, it has a freeway loop around downtown with a southern loop a little further out. The inner loop is comprised of various concurrencies between I-40, I-24, and I-65, with T-style interchanges at each approach. The southern loop is signed as the auxiliary interstate 440. This interchange in question is at the spot where I-24 and I-440 intersect I-40, with I-440 having its own interchange with I-24 right before it. There's even an interchange with US 41 sandwiched in between it. So if you're coming off 440 eastbound but want to get onto I-40 east, then you'll have to merge in with I-24 westbound before reaching I-40. This causes major weaving conflicts with traffic from I-24 also trying to exit onto I-40, as well as traffic from I-440 wanting to stay on I-24 westbound. This configuration, as well as the inner loop configuration of Nashville, seemed like a reasonable idea and worked well when the metro was significantly smaller in the 1960s and 70s. But with the tremendous growth of the past 30 years, it just doesn't cut the mustard anymore. Checking in with the Tennessee DOT, it appears that they are well aware of this bottleneck and currently have a study listed with recommended improvements to the interchange. Those can be seen here. It includes barriers to separate merging traffic, as well as other possible improvements to reduce weaving congestion. It might be a while before any of this comes to fruition, but there is work in progress. For number 8, we head back to California, and this bottleneck is in Los Angeles itself. This one is the interchange between Interstate 710, the Long Beach Freeway, and Interstate 105, the Century Freeway. I-105 connecting to LAX Airport, and I-710 connecting to the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach makes these two highways major routes for freight. Not to mention the added commercial vehicles in this heavily populated area of Los Angeles. In fact, the 710 is one of the busiest freight corridors in the entire country, and around 34% of all containerized cargo in the United States passes through this corridor. This one doesn't appear to have any auxiliary lanes for exiting traffic, but most of the ramps appear to be 2 to 3 lanes, so they're a high capacity. Los Angeles and other California officials have been studying and planning how to address this corridor. However, in 2021, the EPA suspended a plan by Caltrans to expand and modernize this outdated design and the ramps on the I-710 corridor. The EPA says that the 710 corridor plan will violate the Clean Air Act by bringing even more pollution to this heavily polluted area and would also have a negative impact by buying up and demolishing nearby homes in the poor Black and Latino neighborhoods adjacent to the existing roadway. Some have nicknamed the roadway Cancer Alley due to the current pollution. I don't see how we can move forward with this project in its current format, said Caltrans Director Tons Omishakin. It's not aligning with the direction that we are taking at the state from a transportation standpoint, just plain and simple. Transportation officials, however, warn that if nothing is done, the roadways will get worse and it will have a negative effect on the competitive position of the Los Angeles region in the global economy. So overall, it appears that any improvements to the 710 are in limbo, and this corridor shall likely remain on the list for several years to come unless California officials can figure out a solution. Number 7 is another Los Angeles interchange, California 60 and California 57. The area in question is where these two freeways, locally known as the Pomona and Orange freeways, merge in 2 three-way interchanges with an interchange with Grand Avenue in between. California 60 is a major east-west freeway that runs roughly parallel to I-10 between Beaumont and Los Angeles, and serves as an alternate route for reaching the city. In fact, I used to use this roadway more often than I-10 when traveling towards LA during my time in the area. These are both high-capacity roadways with several lanes. The concurrent portion looks to have at least 14 lanes in some parts. However, I don't see any auxiliary lanes, and weaving is likely the major culprit here for congestion. It appears that the southern interchange is more equipped for handling the volume here than the northern one. Let's see what California has in the cards for this interchange. It looks like relief is on the way. An interchange improvement project is currently underway. The project calls for an eastbound off-ramp bypass lane from California 60, a new eastbound travel lane, reconfiguring the Grand Avenue eastbound on and off ramps, and complete the westbound on-ramp, widening Grand Avenue and reconstructing the bridge overdressing, constructing an eastbound California 60 on-ramp bypass from the northbound California 57 split, and constructing the eastbound California 60 Diamond Bar Boulevard on-ramp. This project specifically identifies this interchange as the worst truck bottleneck in California, so it appears that these truck bottleneck studies hold a lot of weight with state DOTs. Number 6 takes place in the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. This is the interchange between I-290 and I-90/I-94. That is this very interesting looking configuration right near the heart of downtown Chicago. I-290 appears to run from this interchange westward towards a large freight area and the large Chicago O'Hare International Airport via I-294. While I-94 is concurrency holding the major cross-country Interstate 90, America's longest interstate, and I-94, no slouch in its own right, which connects with the cities of Detroit, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. From Google, I-290 looks light on capacity for what this roadway is likely carrying, but there appears to be a subway running down the median, so perhaps that helps ease some of the load it would otherwise experience. East of the interchange, the freeway continues briefly before downgrading to a surface road known as Ida B. Wells Drive upon entering downtown. The I-90/I-94 stretch in this area looks like it's under construction on Google, and it will be very interesting to see what ideas they have come up with for an interchange in a very urban area like this one. Alright, Illinois DOT says this interchange, known as the Jane Byrne interchange, carries 400,000 vehicles per day and is 50 years old, nearing the end of its engineering life. Wow, so apparently Illinois has an entire site dedicated to this interchange. Looks like there are several projects under construction or to be constructed soon. Proposed eastbound I-290 features include 5 mainline lanes from Racine Avenue to Peoria Street, 2 travel lanes which will continue to the east over I-90/I-94, where they would join with the ramps from southbound I-90/94 and northbound 90/94 to continue as 3 travel lanes under the post office. Rehabilitation of eastbound Congress Viaduct structure, including deck reconstruction and substructure repairs. Reconstruction of eastbound I-290 structure over 90/94. High mast lighting at the interchange, as well as lighting along the Congress Parkway Viaduct. New retaining walls along the south side of I-290 near the Canal Street exit. New sign panels throughout the project limits, and new ITS systems. I'll also link this one in the description if you want to read through the rest of the document. So Illinois DOT is hard at work updating this section. Relief is on the way in the coming years. Number 5 is a place that I'm very familiar with and that no one should be surprised made the list. Atlanta. This one is the western interchange between I-20 and the I-285 perimeter. In case you're not aware, Atlanta has consistently been one of the fastest growing metros in the country, posting incredible rates of growth since the 1950s and not slowing down anytime soon. It also sits in a very strategic location and crossroads of goods and commerce in the southeast. There isn't much freight that moves through the south without touching the Atlanta metro area. While Atlanta has posted staggering levels of growth decade after decade, sadly, the infrastructure just has not been able to keep up. As of 2020, it sits at over 6 million residents with a freeway network more in line with the 2.5 million metro. The terrible arterial roadway network and limited transit network doesn't help matters, so it's no surprise to see it take a spot on the list. As you can see, this interchange between I-20 and I-285 has single lane ramps for all movements, definitely designed for a smaller city. No auxiliary lanes are to be found, but the fortunate case here is that there aren't any other interchanges nearby. So in the case of this one, it looks more like it's just a capacity issue due to the dated design, rather than the weaving issue that we've seen in some of the previously mentioned interchanges. Let's see if Georgia DOT is planning any upgrades soon here. And it looks like they are. The design calls for updating those single lane ramps that I mentioned to 2-lane ramps, removing left-hand entrance and exit ramps, constructing collector lanes in the westbound direction towards Fulton Industrial Boulevard, adding approximately 6 miles of general purpose lanes along I-20 from Factory Shoals Road to Hamilton E. Holmes Drive, adding approximately 2 miles of general purpose lanes along I-285 from Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway to MLK Drive in order to accommodate the interchange improvements, and to modify and or replace the bridge structures along I-20, including the Fulton County Railway and the Chattahoochee River. This project appears to be in the community engagement phase with an open house that took place in December 2022, and a response letter to public comments to be released sometime in February 2023. So if all goes according to this plan and design, relief will be coming for this interchange. Atlanta occupies back-to-back spots on this list by also taking the number 4 position. This time is the I-85, I-285 interchange north of the city. This one is the spaghetti junction known as the Tom Moreland Interchange. Even though reviewers on Google seem in agreement about the need to update this one, it actually already has 2 and even 3 lanes of capacity for some ramp improvements, though I could see some weaving issues along 285 with how close the Chamblee-Tucker Road interchange is. One thing you have to understand about Atlanta's traffic flow and 285 is that with the explosive growth in its northern suburbs and the lack of any sort of northern arc or outer perimeter, almost any east-west movement in this arc of suburbia from Marietta to Lawrenceville will require taking the nearest freeway or arterial to 285 and then back out. With the political chokehold on the region when it comes to building new transportation infrastructure, making attempts at improving these interchanges is about the only thing Georgia DOT can do these days. Though with auxiliary lanes already in place, multi-lane ramps already built for the most part, and both freeways already being pretty much maxed out on width, I'm not sure what can be done here. So let's see how they plan to address these spaghetti noodles. It actually looks like there are currently no plans to do anything on this interchange, and honestly, that's not surprising. As I said earlier, this interchange looks pretty much maxed out or near max capacity as far as improvements go. There does appear to be a study going on for the I-85 corridor as a whole between 285 and I-985, but nothing proposed on the books for now. So unfortunately, my friends, be prepared to spend some time admiring the scenery of the North Atlanta suburbs when traveling through this interchange. On to the top 3, and we kick it off in H-Town, Houston, Texas. The interchange in question here is the interchange between I-45 and I-69/US 59 just south of downtown. Texas is well known for building vast, expansive roadway infrastructure. Houston, in particular, is criticized by some for building the world's widest freeway out to Katy. However, at the interchange in question here, things are not very wide. I-45 is the major north-south freeway through Houston, which connects it to Dallas. And while it may be wide further out, it actually drops quite a bit of capacity in the downtown area. So it's no surprise that this is the biggest bottleneck in the city and in all of Texas. Texas 288 also plays a role in this interchange as it actually travels alongside I-69 into the interchange rather than merging with it. Here on the Google Maps overview, you can literally see the two freeways running together. In order to make this all work, you have some substandard left side entrance and exit ramps, single lane ramps and such. I-45 in particular will be very costly to modify in this area as it is an elevated freeway between Midtown and downtown Houston. Freight traffic on this corridor is only going to increase when or if the superhighway, I-69, is fully completed between Mexico and Canada. I did a thorough breakdown of that highway a while back that you can see linked in the description. I am aware that there is a plan to address this interchange and I-45 in general near downtown that has attracted quite a bit of controversy, but I haven't thoroughly looked through the details up to this point. So let's find out exactly what the plan is and why it's so controversial. Well, never mind. As of December 2022, it looks like a compromise and agreement has been reached between the Texas DOT and Houston officials on how to proceed with the I-45 project. Here it looks like Texas officials echo my assessment of the downtown system of Houston freeways. They list I-10, I-45, and I-69 all as having outdated design standards in the area. This project, called the North Houston Highway Improvement Project, calls for 4 managed express lanes on I-45 up to Beltway 8, rerouting I-45 to be parallel with I-10 on the north side of downtown and parallel to I-69 on the east side of downtown. It will also realign sections of I-10 and I-69 in downtown to eliminate the current roadway reverse curves which limit capacity. And finally, it will depress I-69 between I-10 and Spur 527 south of downtown to eliminate unsafe weaving. Listed further down is the overall purpose of the project, some of which includes managing I-45 traffic congestion, increasing mobility on I-45 between I-69 and Beltway 8, and providing expanded transit and carpool capabilities. So it looks like Texas is already on the ball and in the process of addressing the issues in this area. But I shouldn't be surprised. Texas has never been shy about building big and building often. At number 2, the runner-up is back in Chicago, and it is the interchange of I-294 at I-290, I-88. It looks like this is the western end of the same I-290 that showed up earlier on the list near downtown Chicago. I haven't yet had the pleasure of traversing Chicago's freeways, but observing from Google Maps, it looks like I-290 is the primary east-west freeway for the city, with I-294 serving as a western bypass and I-88 being a route that travels out to the Quad Cities. Then they all meet here in this triple interchange configuration. I-294 and I-290 run parallel for some distance, and I-294 as well as I-88 are toll roads. When it comes to toll roads interacting with free highways, you get some bizarre interchanges in order to prevent drivers from avoiding the tolls. See Pennsylvania for more details. I-294 appears to have more capacity than I-290, and most of the ramps appear to have reasonable capacity, and ramps to Illinois 38 are also included in the area. Let's see what Illinois DOT has going on here. Here on IllinoisTollway.com, we can see that construction is already underway to update the interchange. The I-290 I-88 interchange at I-294 is one of the most important interchanges on the tollway system. It is not only a crossroads for commuter and local traffic, but also an integral part of the regional freight network. More than 300,000 vehicles use the interchange every day, traveling between Reagan Memorial Tollway, I-88, the Eisenhower Expressway, I-290, and the Tri-Cities Tollway, I-294, as well as other local and state roadways. Some of the incoming improvements include barriers to separate various ramp movements from merging traffic, new ramp designs to improve travel from northbound 294 to westbound 290, and from southbound 294 to westbound 88 by reducing congestion due to weaving and truck turn movements. A new fly under ramp to improve travel between westbound I-294 and westbound I-290 will be built, and adjusting the exit travel pattern for drivers traveling between westbound I-290 and St. Charles Road. So Illinois is already on it. Relief is on the way soon for drivers in this area and the truckers who have to pass through it. And finally, at number 1, the moment you've all been waiting for, Interstate 95 at New Jersey 4 in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Yet again, Interstate 95 tops the list. This is the interchange configuration right before the George Washington Bridge, headed into New York City, and I'm not surprised at all to see it top the list. I cover some of the reasoning behind the sheer volume of traffic in this area on my Cross Bronx Expressway video, which is linked in the description. However, before we even analyze this interchange configuration itself, the main issue is that New York's metro area has a whopping 20 million plus people, by far more than any other American city. For reference, that means that New York is handling almost as many people as Los Angeles and Dallas combined. And if you've seen the vast size of their roadway networks, you can imagine just how incredible the demand is on the roadways in New York City. Northern New Jersey also has an incredible amount of industrial land and freight moving through the area, most of which is moved by truck. I-95 and I-80 bring goods and raw materials from the U.S. interior to the major ports of New York and New Jersey. Then you have the incredibly well-designed New Jersey Turnpike, which efficiently carries the might of I-95 through the state, then adding the cross-country Interstate 80 right before this interchange. After this interchange, the New Jersey Turnpike begins the process of squeezing down and contracting in capacity in order to enter the George Washington Bridge. Of course, on the other side, you have the infamous Cross-Bronx Expressway and severely outdated ramps feeding onto the George Washington Bridge for those trying to get into New Jersey. The result? The biggest cluster and pain point of congestion of any interchange in America. Absolute chaos. A big part of New Jersey transportation and planning revolves around getting residents to and from Manhattan, New York. Currently, New Jersey operates the largest state transit system in America. However, no additional train capacity can be added to the lines that currently go into Manhattan. What can be done here? In my personal opinion, nothing. At least not from a roadway standpoint. There will never be enough roadway capacity to handle this level of population, as demand already far outstrips anything that could be feasibly constructed. But let's see if New Jersey has any ideas. Looking at the State Transportation Improvement Plan, there don't appear to be any projects in development nor in progress on this section of I-95. And that's not surprising. However, in New Jersey's 2030 plans, there is a strong push to increase the size of the state's transit network. According to the New York Times, a 4.5-mile commuter tunnel from Newark to Penn Station in Manhattan is currently under construction for a whopping $16.1 billion that, once completed, could definitely help with the mobility for some New Jersey residents. However, don't expect any less congestion on this interchange. But New Jersey, in tandem with New York and federal money from the Federal Infrastructure Law, hope to get this finished. $16 billion is a ton of money when it comes to a single project. But as I stated earlier, the demand for roadway capacity here far outstrips any feasible capacity increases in this densely populated area. Going forward, just expect to sit back and enjoy the scenery as you traverse this section of I-95, my fellow travelers and truckers. Alright guys, there you have it, America's top 10 interchange bottlenecks for truckers. What has been your experience driving through some of these interchanges? Do you like the projects that some of these states are taking to address them? Or do you think there are better ideas? Or should they not do anything at all? Or better yet, have you found any shortcuts to avoid these interchanges altogether? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you on the next trip coming soon to a town near you.